Hey there, it's Shauna. Welcome to your weekly astrology forecast for November 5th. This week I've titled Let's Do This because this week we have the planet Jupiter moving into a new sign, the sign of Sagittarius, and that is one of the Sagittarius kind of mottos is like, yeah, let's do this, let's get into it. And this week in the US, it is the week of the midterm elections. So I think a lot of people are feeling like really excited and amped up for that. So let's get into it. I have some astrology that I'll share with you. And then, of course, I have 3 tips for you to make the most out of this week. So what's really cool is this week we have both Uranus and Jupiter changing signs in different kinds of ways. So Uranus on Tuesday will be, it's retrograde, and so it will be moving back into the sign of Aries, from Taurus to Aries. And Uranus is the planet that symbolizes revolution and change and doing something different from the status quo, or doing something that you didn't even know was an option. So Uranus is an outer planet and moves very slowly. So it just went into Taurus in May of this year, May of 2018. It just barely went into Taurus. So it's been at 0 degrees, 1 degrees. I think it even got to maybe 2 degrees of Taurus, and then it started to move backward. This week it will be in Aries, and it will be there until March of 2019. So this, again, it's worthy of noting, but it is a very slowly moving planet. So it's not going to be something that is a dramatic change or dramatic shift because it moves so slowly. So it's really only going to influence people that have planets that are maybe in the late degrees of the cardinal signs, which are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. So the other thing that's happening is Jupiter is moving into the sign of Sagittarius. And so Jupiter typically, it moves a little bit faster than Uranus. It typically is in one sign for about 12 months-ish, 12 months or so at a time. So it will be in the sign of Sagittarius until December next year. So this is really important because Jupiter is a planet that when it, anywhere that it goes, it expands upon something, and it can make things feel like they're larger than life. It can make things feel like they have a certain amount of synchronicity or kismet, or it's known for being lucky as well. But again, like there's this sense of expansion and inclusion. And so Jupiter moving into the sign of Sagittarius, this emphasizes that, like that flair of doing things in a way that is Sagittarian, that is about exploring and experiencing and being like, yeah, like let's do this. And you'll also find that Sagittarius will be moving into a different area of your personal birth chart. So that's something that you can look at as well to get more information on what's expanding in your life, what's going to be elaborated on. And of course, we also have a new moon this week. We have a new moon in the sign of Scorpio. And so this is happening Wednesday the 7th. It's exact at 8:02 a.m. Pacific time at 15 degrees of Scorpio. And so this moon, I think, is really going to feel kind of otherworldly, even more so than a new moon. New moons typically are a feeling of going inward, a time of reflection, downtime, needing all of those things, desiring all of those things. Scorpio is about digging deep. It's about intense and passionate emotional feeling, emotional awareness, emotional reflection. And it's really a time of like looking at what the truth of things is and are. And this new moon will be making an aspect to Neptune, which is about sensitizing things. It's about connecting with the collective energy, collective unconscious. It is a spiritualizing energy, can also be related to illusion as well. This new moon is also making an aspect to Pluto. Pluto is about those things of like going deep and really getting to the truth of something and taking away that which has been worn out or is old or doesn't serve anymore. So all that to say, I think this may be kind of an intense new moon. You'll have to let me know how you're feeling. I think it's a great time for really getting into the heart of what it is that's important to you and how you're feeling, and to do a lot of intense reflection. The other thing that's happening this week is a little bit lighter on a different note. We have Venus, which is still retrograde, trine Mars. And so this will be a really cool aspect because Venus is about social connection. It's about love, beauty, sex, relationships. And Venus is still retrograde until I think next week is when it will station direct. So we're already like really paying attention to Venus and what Venus is doing, because it's about reflecting on relationships and values and how we interact with those things. Venus trine Mars is a harmonious aspect to Mars. Mars is about drive and determination and fighting for something. It's about confidence and initiative. And so this may look like really being really passionate, connecting with other people, and finding a way to get, I think, like a little bit more social grace in a situation that may have been challenging too, because earlier Venus made a square to Mars. I think that was a few weeks ago. And so if we're paying attention to what Venus is doing, Venus made a square to Mars, and then Venus opposed Uranus. So those were more tense aspects where there was maybe a little bit of a challenge in relationships. And now it's like, okay, how can things come together in a more harmonious way? So I'm curious, as always, how things work out for you. So definitely watch out for that and keep me posted. I have 3 tips for you to make the most out of all of this energy. I know it's a lot going on. Tip number 1 is to have an inward focus this week. And I think that's so crucial whenever we have a new moon, is to honor that energy, the natural energy that's happening, where it is a more reflective internal focus. I think it's very interesting that in the US, our midterm elections are happening the day before the new moon. So they're happening in the dark of the new moon. So typically at that time, people are more sensitive. They need, at that time, you need to have more downtime, more rest. It is a time of reflection. So have that inward focus as much as you can. Tip number 2 is to be open to connect, but with the right people. And so what I mean by that is because we have that Venus-Mars trine going on. And so I think it is important to, yes, have your inward focus. At the same time, there's also this aspect around connection. And I think the caveat with that is, the trick to that is to make sure that it's people that you really resonate with, where you really share the values, and to pay attention to where it feels like a connection, where it's a disconnect. And that's not bad, it just is. So I want you to really pay attention to connecting with the people where it feels like there is an alignment there, an alignment of values, an alignment of energy. Tip number 3 is along these similar lines, to stay close to your values. And so I think that's essential because we're in this Venus retrograde process. Venus is only retrograde about every 18 months or so, so it is an important time. And I know that retrogrades typically have a negative connotation, but it's actually a very sacred time to do a lot of reflective work and to retool some things in your life. So I want all of us to honor that by staying close to our values, and to really pay attention to what it is that is important to you. And you may even want to reflect back on your notes from what you wrote down when Venus went retrograde, if you did that. So I'm going to pull a card for us for this week, the energy of this week. So I haven't used this deck in a while. I'm using the Spirit Animal deck from the Wild Unknown. Always beautiful cards. So I picked the Vulture card. I knew it was going to be this card. I just knew it. That's hilarious. So the Vulture is a really cool card because it symbolizes, the Vulture always reminds me of death, but it symbolizes resourcefulness. It does symbolize the birth and death and rebirth process. But it symbolizes resourcefulness and wisdom in that resourcefulness. And so what I find is really interesting, that what this is making me think of is we have this new moon in Scorpio, and we have the new moon in Scorpio the moment, like very close to right before Jupiter moves from Scorpio into Sagittarius. And so I think this is kind of like a culmination of that Scorpio energy, where we had Jupiter expanding upon Scorpio for just about an entire year or so. So I think that this is a reflection of the power and the gifts and the intensity of that Scorpio kind of vibe. So that's what I have to say about that. I'm curious what you think too. That was your horoscope for this week. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I am wishing you a wonderful week. If you want to stay connected to me, you can find me on Instagram or Facebook under Neo-Feminine Astrology. If you're interested in working with me, you can find out more about that on my website under Neo-Feminine Astrology. And as always, I appreciate you sharing this with friends or with anyone that you think would find it helpful. Wishing you a wonderful week, and I'll talk to you soon. Namaste.